Okay, here we are, everybody. I am super nervous and super excited. Welcome to the Fairy Tale Magazine's Prose and Poetry Contest Winners Reading. Tonight, we're celebrating the works of our first place winners, Katie Jordan in prose, Lauren Reynolds in poetry. Yay! And our honorable mentions, Lynden Wade, Steve Aultman for prose, Marcia Sherman, and Deborah Sage for poetry. We are excited that you're here. We are thrilled that you submitted to the contest and that there were such beautiful, beautiful things that were submitted. Yes, thank you, Madeline. Congratulations, everybody. Absolutely, yes. So the Fairy Tale Magazine was founded 18 years ago by our fearless leader, Kate Wolford, as founder and former editor-in-chief. Kate is moving into her new role as fairy godmother in residence, and she will be leading our fairy godparents clubs from here forward. So, Kate, thank you for being here. Thank you for creating this special, special thing. I think those of us that are here know it and love it and have been here for quite a while. We want to say thank you to Kim Malinowski. She's decided to move on from Fairy Tale Magazine, and I just want to take this moment to acknowledge all of the great work that she's done over the past years and to just wish her the best of everything. Yeah, Kate, yes. I think probably many of the people in this Zoom room tonight have been published by the magazine at one point or another, and we're just thrilled that you are part of our fantastic community. While I'm at it, I'm throwing out big thanks for contributing writers, Kelly Jarvis and Lissa Sloan. Thank you for your tireless, tireless work. And thank you to Madeline Mertz, who found Fairy Tale Magazine and requested to become an intern with us. She is also staying on after her internship and will be moving into new roles and responsibility. Truly, we could not do this magazine without the staff. I know we're a tiny, tiny staff and we are a nonprofit. We are very, very thrilled that people love fairy tales, even still, even after that first person who first decided to say once upon a time. Yes, we're still doing that, aren't we? Okay, everybody. In addition to publishing 2 regular issues of Fairy Tale Magazine annually, we also do a bonus issue of stories and poems for the annual Fairy Tale Prose and Poetry Contest. That is what we have gathered to celebrate tonight. When you submit to our regular issues, that's free to submit. We have our one fee-based contest annually, and that is this. So without further ado, we are going to invite you to listen, sit back with a cup of your favorite whatever. It could be tea, it could be harder, it could be water. I'm having water tonight. I think that's fairly practical of me to do. And now, without further ado, here are our readers. We're going to start with Lynden Wade. She comes to us from London, so she has already had a full day. It is 11 p.m. In London, and so Lynden is going to start us off by reading her prose story, Little Trembling. Lynden neglects her housework to spend time in the worlds of folklore and magic. She's had stories published in a range of publications, including us, including BFS Horizons, the Journal of the British Fantasy Society. She is still hoping that she gets a house elf at some point. I am joining her in that. I would love to have a house elf. You can find Lynden on Instagram at L Wade Writes. That's L and WADE Writes, WRITES. And Lynden, are you ready?
I am, and our clocks changed recently, so I discovered that actually it's midnight, it's the witching hour.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
This is the beginning of Little Trembling. Harsh and cruel was the Prince of the South. The Earl of the East, Lord of the West, and the Count of the North ruled fairly and justly, but he declared them weak. The only solution, he sneered, was for him to take control. Men whispered that he was a sorcerer, able to make himself invisible. That way he could walk the byways of the north, the west, and the east, sit at their feasts unseen, and listen in on their councils undetected. The sorcerer himself had started these rumours, so he could sow uncertainty and fear before moving in to conquer. The Earl of the East and the Lord of the West and the Count of the North exhorted their subjects to take up arms and fight the Prince of the South. But the subjects were now all on edge, distrusting their lords, ready to flee, not fight. How could they fight when they didn't know where the enemy was? Along the border of the east ran a mountain range. On the other side ruled an elven queen whose power was as great as that of the sorcerer. Her enchantment lay over the mountains like a mist. Through the heart of this barrier ran a tunnel carved out with magic. Once at sunset and once at dawn, these gates opened, and for the rest of the hours the gates locked fast. At sunset each day, a large crowd of refugees pressed against it, their carts piled high with belongings. As more and more subjects fled, the land lay untended. Fruit dropped from the trees and rotted in the grass. Church bells hung silent. One family, however, clung to their cottage. Strongheart, the mother, said she would not be forced from her home by rumours and fears. Kindheart, the father, did not want to abandon their sow on her new litter of piglets. Their daughter, Treasure, had not inherited her mother's brave heart. When they still had neighbours, they called her Little Trembling. Each night she dreamed of the sorcerer who rode a wild cat, his face twisted with rage that one family of peasants should defy him by refusing to leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynden. So great. Okay. Kelly has put the link in the chat. So if you have not had the chance to, sorry, I'm off video. If you haven't had the chance to read Lynden's fantastic story, you will want to do it. It is about little Trembling, who you can imagine has a journey to make, and it's just fantastic. Okay, so next up is Katie Jordan. She is our Prose winner, and she wrote the gorgeous story, A Wishing Star. When Katie isn't reading or writing thrillers, she's devouring crab puffs, hunting for the lobster truck. I would join you in doing that. Or snuggling in for family movie night. Her work has been featured in the No Sleep podcast, Enchanted Conversation, and Marrow magazine, among others. She lives in the Pacific Northwest with her outdoor enthusiast husband, Brad, and 2 daughters. Find her online at authorkatiejordan.com. Katie, take it away.
Okay, there we go. Hi. Do you want me to just read the first section? Because I know it's pretty long. I wasn't sure how far I should go.
You are welcome to read to any, any point that you think is a fine spot to stop.
Okay. All right, so this is A Wishing Star. Martha stood, shoulders hunched, back arched, her body resembling an accordion. Her stained shoes, in need of a cobbler's attention, sloshed through a puddle outside the general store. The townsboys jeered in their sing-song voices. Martha McLeod, thin as a reed, ugly as stinkweed. Martha's chin dipped, sending a curtain of brunette hair cascading across her face. She inspected her calloused knuckles and the accumulated dirt wedged deep under her fingernails, evidence of her constant gardening. Her tears streamed down. One of the boys yelled after her, "Why don't you talk?" Her jade eyes remained downcast until she crossed the threshold into her parents' home. Aromas of freshly baked bread, stewed tomatoes, and a hint of basil hit her nostrils. She lowered herself, resting on the stool next to the hearth. A ladle clanged against the soup pot as her mother worked. Outside, dusk fell. You're of marrying age, you know. Mama frowned, adding a pinch of herbs to the pot. You should be fussing about a cottage of your own. Martha whispered, Men loathe me. She paused, then added, And the women are too busy worrying about men. Friendship is an impossibility. Her mother's eyes glistened. The clanging stopped. Life isn't always fair. Now quit fretting and set the table. Martha obeyed, then went outside and forced her chin up, staring at the sliver of moon. Its light gave her a glimmer of hope. Help. She wrung her hands in the stained folds of her dress. What will become of me? A ball of fire streaked across the sky. A wishing star, Martha murmured. She pressed her eyelids close, her breath catching. Please, dear star, bring friendship and love. The star landed at her feet, extinguishing then vanishing. She ran her fingers through the warm dust, unaware if her plea was heard. After supper, she scrubbed the muck from beneath her nails. A smile pulled at the corners of her lips, then fell as her older brother shoved one of the barn kittens into her hands. This one cut its leg. Oh, she muttered, pulling the kitten closer and inspecting the gash. Her brother turned to go, then paused, rubbing the scruff on his chin. I overheard you talking to Mama earlier. You don't worry about becoming an old maid, you hear? She started to nod. Then he added, There's always widowers needing someone to look after their wee ones. Her throat tightened. She retrieved a strip of cloth, tending to the cat's wound. Yes, I suppose there's always that. Spring gave way to summer, and summer to fall. By mid-October, all the women of Martha's age were married, and the kitten had grown into a large tom. Martha sat, stroking the cat's fur, as Mama burst through the door, red-faced. Martha McLeod, is it true? Did you refuse the Jacobson widower? Mama, Martha squirmed. He's 56 years old. Well, well, Mama huffed. And you think you're too good for him? That was your one chance. We'll be stuck feeding you and that blasted cat until we die. And then what will become of you? Martha shrugged. What's the point of getting married if you don't love the man? At that, Mama shook her by the shoulders. Are you daft? You think the other girls married for love? Wake up. The cat jumped from Martha's lap and darted outside. Martha followed. She nearly collided with a gentleman struggling down the lane, favoring his left hip as he limped. He was dressed very fine in a crisp brown suit with a matching top hat. Martha stammered, hiding her dirty fingernails behind her back. He removed his hat, revealing a mop of blonde curls and a lopsided grin. Afternoon, I'm Sean. I'm looking for Halfshire Lane. The townspeople were of little help. Kindness isn't abundant here. She gently took his arm. I'll take you. Sean's limp worsened. Martha pretended to trip. I'm a bit clumsy. Do you mind if we walk slower? You're a gentle soul, he whispered. Martha stood, a hair taller. I think I'll stop there.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, you guys, if you have not gotten to read the story yet, it's fantastic. I encourage you to read it. It gives a lot of hope for, a beautiful union rather than settling for something. So, okay, we are having a few people coming and joining us a little bit more as we go along. And I just want to invite our next reader to unmute herself. Lauren, are you ready? Yes. Okay. I'm going to talk a minute about Lauren. She is our poetry winner for this year with Find Your Voice. Lauren spends her days exploring old woods, spinning outrageous tales of fairies and pirates and evil queens and all the good stuff, and has published many poems and short stories. She lives in Maryland with her best friend and a hellhound who fights for negotiation of her laptop due to an outstanding long jealous rivalry. So yes, that sounds like that is something to maybe video and share with us later. She is a self-proclaimed mythology nut, an anime junkie, and a monster lover. Lauren, take it away.
Thank you. Well, speaking of the hellhound, this is actually her cuddle. This is actually her cuddled up right next to me. Don't let the face fool you. She is exactly as cute as she seems. Her name is Georgie, and she is my hellhound. She was constantly fighting with my laptop. Say hi, Georgie. All right. So there. Oh, jeez. See. This is exactly what I mean. As soon as I take my attention off her, she has to be there. So little bit of background about this poem, just because it's very personal to me. I wrote this earlier this year, actually, and I honestly was not sure if I was going to submit it or not. But I decided, what did I have to lose? So this I actually wrote during the Carter Hall School of Folklore's Enchant group, which came into my life exactly when I needed it. I was dealing with a very stressful job where for the first time it like wasn't okay to be myself, and it just felt like they were just trying to like put me in a box, and it was horrible. Jokes on them, because as for the last 3 months I've been working as a school librarian, and that is the best job ever. And writing this really helped me not just process my own feelings at the time, but also I wanted to inspire anyone who feels like they're in that situation to just like express themselves. And for me, that's through different art projects. Sometimes that's writing, sometimes that's collage, sometimes that's just whatever I feel like doing at the time. So this is Find Your Voice. They plucked my crane feathers. They stole my seal skin. They clipped my angel's wings. They burned my mermaid's tail. Forced me to sit in a cubicle, wear pencil skirts, with my hands folded in my lap, and mask my rage with a smile. To still my dancing feet, to silence my siren song, the baby in my lap chains me in place. Pin up your wildling hair, cover your bare feet. Wear a suit, they tell me. Shackle me with handbags, schedules, and high heel shoes, until I can no longer hear the song of the sea, the voice of the trees, the whisper of sacred fire, stripped of my weirdness, reshaped into their box, a perfection of normalcy. And still they say I'm not good enough. When did you lose your enchantment? When did you cut out your tongue and bind your feet and stop telling stories to your children? When did your boldness become conformity? When did love become a cage? Who decided that all your stories had already been told? Voiceless, dreamless, hopeless, alone, until a butterfly lands on your nose. A whale swims in the sky. A dragon appears sleeping in the flowers, and your child sings the ocean's song. Your dry lips quiver with notes. Your scared feet tap. Your weary fingers itch to hold. Your hair's tight coils sway loose. A dance, a story, a spell, a song. Art explodes out of you. A whisper, then a roaring shout. Your hair loose and wild as a storm. Your voice no longer silenced. Until they are the ones forced to listen and take off their shoes, strip their constraining ties and stockings, and let their hair grow. Revel their own voices, the tears and regrets, the silence and the shame, and the dreams that were taken. Now find your silky skin, your angel's wings, your cloak of magic feathers, your mermaid's tail. Create a new one from paint, from yarn, from words. Your weapons and your tools, needle, brush, and pen. Your loyal comrades and friends who never left your side, merely waited for your sacred voice to return.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was just gorgeous. I believe Kelly has put the link to it in the chat if you haven't gotten to see it yet. Lauren, that was just beautiful. Thank you for sharing it. Wonderful. Okay, let us continue on. We are going to have Marcia Sherman share with us next. She is an honorable mention in poetry, a Price Far Above Rubies. Marcia Sherman specializes in fairy tales, folklore, and fables. Her most recently published works of fiction, September Harvest, can be found in The Monsters We Forgot, Volume 3 by Sotira Press. Ms. Sherman also contributes essays and short works to the Fairy Tale magazine. We are very glad to have you. And Llewellyn Worldwide under the pen name, I'm going to say this wrong, MEM?
Close enough.
Good, good. Okay, I will let you take it from here. Regale us with
Okay.
your poem.
You said the title, Price Far Above Rubies. I think I didn't copy it, so okay. Let me preface. I've been writing a bunch of stories, poems, prose poems, that I call the Bar Chronicles, and they're monologues told from the viewpoint of either the patron or the bartender. And this one is the patron. 2 glasses of wine, please. Oh, sorry, that happens all the time. These gems will pay for the wine and the meal and the beds, yes? Oops, glad you caught that one. Rarely get a pearl so large. How did this happen to me? Out of a kindness shown, a cup of water shared, a crust of bread halved, and the next morning, these riches with every sentence. There is no stopping it. My sister, my half-sister, no, she is not so happily afflicted. It always draws a crowd. That is why we chose this little inn with no patrons. You may think of them as a gift, but it can be a burden, a danger even. Some have thought to keep us, to hurt us. We have learned to recognize greed. Wow, that sure is a splendid emerald. Yes, yes, take what you want. There is always more. Well, that was a fine meal. The wine was excellent, although rather spicy. I am uncommonly weary. If you could just show us to our room. No need to. I said what I want to say. Stop. Sister? Thank the man for his hospitality. Oh, indeed, it is a huge snake and deadly. There now, quick and painless. Sister, do not look so squeamish. Haven't you got used to this by now? Go get the gems on the bar. Leave the pearl and the emerald for his wife. Off to bed and say your prayers. We may need the protection. That's it.
It's fantastic. I can just imagine, having stuff fall from your lips as you are speaking. Yes. Is it a boon to be granted diamonds? May diamonds fall from your lips every time you say a word. Ow! Fantastic. And you have highlighted gorgeously, Marcia, the danger that could encompass, to be out in the world and having, having good things or not so good things. It's just fascinating what you've brought forward as far as the implications of what could happen in that instance. Thank you. Thank you.
What I don't know, and I don't know if anyone can tell me when we're all wrapped up here, is I don't remember how it ends. I'm sure there must be a happy ending for the sister with the jewels, but I don't know. I don't remember. I'll have to look it up.
I'm not sure either. I think that, after the ending of the fairy tale, it might need a Lissa Sloan treatment. She gets a prince, or a prince gets her. Yes, something to fill the coffers, right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I hope it's true love, and I hope it's not just love of diamonds and pearls and things. Yeah. Danger, yes, we never thought of. It's so true. Okay. All right, you guys. Here is the point in our time tonight where we are going to give away a bookmark. And let me do this. I'm going to see if I can share something on my screen. Can you all see that? I hope you can. And so, okay, so here is an example of one of the bookmarks. This may be something that could be coming at you if you participate in this giveaway. So basically, our tradition at the Fairy Tale Magazine is that we will pick one number between 100 and 400. Kate is going to do that. And so here is your job. 100 is the lowest threshold. 400 is the highest threshold. And what I want you to do is think. What's the number in your head? And I want you to put it into the chat for a chance to win a fantastic, beautiful bookmark. And I think Kelly could be sharing in the chat. I can't see the chat right at this moment, but I'm guessing that Kelly might be sharing a link to the bookmark place. And they just have so many lovely things. You can go there and look at what they have to offer. And if everyone is ready with your number, please put that number into the chat for a chance to win a gorgeous bookmark. That could be this one. It could be a different one. There are some really fun ones. I saw one that was a handheld mirror that had some beautiful foliage around it. Okay, I am going to stop sharing at this moment. And let's just see who has put numbers into the chat. Okay, we've got a number from Lorraine, 239. We've got a number from Marcia. Yes, Amy, I agree with you. Diamonds and Toads is such a fascinating fairy tale. You know, the change in fortune there is just fascinating for each one of those girls. And the implications of what happens afterward. I've thought about it. I hope everybody thinks about it. Okay, so we've got a 399 from Sheila, a 222 from Catherine. Everybody put your numbers in. 223 from Heidi. Steve says 333. Liz says 252. Deborah Sage has she's weighing in with 177. Katie, let's see. Katie sent hers directly to me, and it is 235. Lynden, 242. Lauren, 329. Katie, let's see. Okay, you put yours in 235. Yes, that's perfect. Oh, and Amy, you have turned it into a novella. Okay, yes. So we're looking forward to hearing a lot more about the novella about diamonds and toads, Amy, from you coming up. So this was a fantastic kind of teaser for that. Has everybody put their number in? I think they may all be in. Drum roll. And Kate, go ahead and pop that number in. I know you're staying off microphone for tonight, but you have the number generator. She does a random number generator so that we find a winner. Okay, it's 250 exactly. Now we have our fairy wing woman, Kelly Jarvis, is going to go back through and figure out who is the closest, either above or below that number 250. Who is our closest? And go ahead and drop that in.
I think it's Lynden.
Is it Lynden?
Am I right? With 42?
That looks pretty
There's
close.
a two. No,
No,
there's a
it's-
252.
Yeah,
Oh, we got
it's Liz.
252.
Liz is
Liz.
252.
Thank you, Lisa.
Liz! Yay! Congratulations, Liz. We are excited that you are going to be getting a new fantastic bookmark. It will be magical. Hopefully, it will behave itself. Yes, congratulations. Excellent. All right, you guys. Hopefully the bookmark will behave itself. Yes. Okay, we are going to keep right on going here. And Liz, if you would share your address with Kate, that would be fantastic. Lucky for the next 24 hours, Liz. Yes. So play the lotto, do whatever it is. See if you can talk and diamonds and toads fall from your lips. Don't tell anyone if it does happen, though, because you may fall under exploitive hands. Okay, everybody, we are going to continue with more poetry. Liz. Great. Okay, our very next reader is Deborah Sage with an honorable mention called Ladies of the Dance. I love the story of the 12 dancing princesses, and Deborah has honored it in such a gorgeous way. Lynden, we're going to bid you farewell. Thank you so much for being here and for reading and for being one of our contestants and one of our fantastic winners. We are so happy to have you. Thank you and good night. Okay. All right, so Deborah Sage is a native of Kentucky, that is in the United States of America. She has most recently been published in Eternal Haunted Summer, which we all love here, Literary LEO, Fairy Tale Magazine, yay, we're glad you are a contributor and also a member of our beautiful group, the Fairy Godparents Club. From the Farther Trees, the 2022 Dwarf Stars Anthology, Amethyst Press All Shall Be Well Anthology for Julian of Norwich, and Eye to the Telescope. So, Deborah, are you ready to take it away?
Yes.
Thank you.
At the silver borders of night, when stars are scattered coins across the velvet sky, and the moon glows sovereign and sublime, they come, 12 sisters in their satin shoes. Noiseless as ghosts, they glide through glittering groves, bound for boats to ferry them across the rippling lake into the land of fairy. They come to dance unfettered until their shoes are shreds and starlight dissolves into dawn. They come in emerald silk and silvered cloaks, fingers flashing ruby rings and sapphire stones, pearls threaded through unbound hair. The sisters come without a thought toward peril, buoyed by risk and arrayed in enchantment. Inside flame-lit halls, ethereal music plays. No stray thought disturbs, no desire intrudes, and though they dance with princes across cool stone floors, they dance only for themselves.
I adore that final line. They dance only for themselves. Power. That's powerful. It's gorgeous, you guys. I hope that we will all be turning to our writing, maybe even a little bit extra in the coming days. We'll see what goodness grows from the mulch that is being created at this time. Yes, you are getting some beautiful love in the chat, Deborah. And thank you for sharing the 12 Dancing Princesses with us. I agree, Kate. I agree. Yes. Yeah. Okay, here we are. Last but not least, Steve Aultman is going to read to us When Rumpy Met Sally. And here's what I have to say. I think Steve will be able to read the entirety of his story because we have enough time to get to the top of the hour. Steve, you're going to have to say your other name for me, Aultman.
Oh,
yes, go ahead.
Elfkening.
Elfkening, excellent. I'm glad I didn't try.
It's Old English.
Okay, very
It's Old
good.
English, and yeah, put that out there a long time ago. So.
Fantastic. Okay, Steve, I'm going to give your bio, and then you can take it away from there. Okay. Steve Elfkening Aultman spins yarns in an ever-evolving storybook cottage and lives with his wife Lori and his familiar Finley at the end of a trail of breadcrumbs near Berkeley, California. Acknowledgement. He says thank you to the Carter School of Folklore and Fantastic for its encouragement. I want to just echo that and say thank you to them for their fantastic courses and the community they also foster. Steve is particularly wanting to thank Carol Wallencheck for their suggestions and support. Fantastic. Thank you. And Steve, take it away. You don't have to read fast. You can regale us. This is worth being regaled. Sit back, guys, have your drinks and enjoy. Steve.
Thank you. I'd spent a little bit of time in the background before now figuring out where I was going to stop it because I didn't want to take up too much time. But if you have 10 minutes to spare, I will do the whole spiel. There are many variations on the tale of Rumpelstiltskin, but this is the one true and correct version handed down to me by my grandmother's grandmother's wet nurse, and she never told a lie in her life. One way you can tell it is authentic is that the characters all have names, and they are real names mostly, not just titles. Some nicknames, yes, and a few sobriquets for good measure. So when I say the king, it will only be a shortcut, not an omission, and you will know that I'm referring to King Avaricious, third of that name, whose reign was short but notorious, and, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. In those bad old days of feudalism, the king owned all of the land and some of the people. Social mobility was not a thing, Cinderella notwithstanding, and Social Security wouldn't come along for centuries. The king of this little kingdom was not poor exactly, but his father's coach had been inscribed with, "I'm spending the prince's inheritance," on the boot, and Avaricious II was true to his word, so the new king was tight with his purse. Once, when Avaricious III was holding court, a miller, our good man Dusty, waited in the long, long queue to speak with him. It was Dusty's duty as the king's tenant to pay his lord his rents. Like most millers, Dusty was often accused by farmers of taking more than his fair share when grinding the grain. That was true everywhere. Wheat looks a bit smaller when it's freed from the chaff. How much smaller it actually is seemed a legit subject for dispute, but he was a generally honest man, most of the time. If he had one fault, it was the sin of pride. He was fond of his only daughter and saw only the good in her, and he didn't care who knew it. Goodman Dusty was tired by the time he was summoned into the throne room and a little out of sorts, but he knew the king was looking for a wife, and he made the extraordinary leap that his only child's charms could overcome any disadvantages of birth or fortune. He was a leveler at heart, but generally went along to get along. So when the king deigned to make a little small talk with him, he fell to boasting. Dusty waxed on about his lovely daughter and how good a good wife she would be, and how her bookkeeping and spinning had made him prosperous. Now, Dusty was smartish for a commoner, but he made a fateful error here. Do you see what I mean? He was exaggerating his good fortune to, of all people, the tax man. Not that he begrudged paying his fair share, mind you, but he made himself a target. The king's curiosity was piqued. Dusty's daughter, Mistress Sally Miller, was quite clever and good with her hands. A kindly vicar saw to it that she could read and do her sums, though only a little. Calculus was right out. But she knew more than most folks in the village, so she got ahead. She had kept her father's tally books and accounts ever since her mother had died. Mothers often die early, especially in fairy tales, so Sally was almost expecting it, as perhaps were you. She mourned her mama, but she got on with life. Sally knew how to keep a cottage, too. She was orderly and frugal. She could make a cheese round last a fortnight and darn threadbare stockings. She had done for her father's household what he could not. Each harvest, after the grain was threshed, Sally and the other villagers would take the straw to feed the cows, or muck out the stables, or to make corn dollies or hats bedecked with ribbons for the harvest festival. They would enjoy a bit of rest and abundance if the crop was good. When Dusty returned home after his visit to the castle, he tried to relate all that transpired at the castle to Sally, but he was flummoxed. He couldn't quite recount all the details. He told Sally that he might just have used a metaphor about turning everything she touched into gold, like King Midas. Her eyes went wide. Then he said he might have misspoken a bit, or said something to the effect that she takes straw and turns it into gold. It was a metaphor, like in that song where the Candyman takes rainbows and. But was he in his cups? You tell me. He certainly confused straw with flax. Mistress Sally Miller mainly spun flax into linen. Now, the next village over, just beyond the woods, was just a day's ride from another small kingdom, one that had seaports. They were on a trade route, and that led to merchants and banking and currency. Oh my. And in that village, there was a certain kind of wizard, an alchemist, who had discovered how to transmute base metals into gold. Seriously, I'll spare you the details, but it was magical. Our alchemist was a little person named Rumpelstiltskin. There, I told you. You see, that part about the name being some kind of big secret is all wrong. He came from a long line of Rumpelstiltskins. He was proud of it, and he didn't care who knew about it. Rumors that Rumpelstiltskin was a dwarf or an imp are greatly exaggerated. The term his community preferred was little person. And he wasn't all that small, just a tad shy of 4 feet, if you must know. He had a kind face and a ready wit. Little people are much like other people. They can fall in love. Some of them, most of them, can make their own babies. More on that later. Due to some vagaries in the trade winds, Rumpelstiltskin looked inland for the first time for supplies. That's when he encountered Sally. She was combing her hair at a small mirror across from her cottage window. He was immediately smitten. She was, well, startled at first when she saw him reflected in the mirror, but then a little intrigued. She went outside and they fell to talking. He told her of lands abroad, of ships and sealing wax, and of courts with mighty kings, so unlike the only kings she knew. He spoke of a rising merchant class, and trade and factories, where cottage industries like spinning mushroomed in size until the Luddites started smashing the engines of mischief that ensued. But that's another story. For her part, Sally spoke of longing for more freedom and independence. It would be jumping the gun to say anything about her desire to smash the patriarchy, though she would eventually go there. But that's another story, too. The two of them met many times over the next few days, and before long they were in love. But his business concluded, Rumpelstiltskin needed to return to his hometown, promising to come back again as soon as he could. Now, Sally had not shared any of this with her father. As far as Goodman Dusty was concerned, Sally was single and could be married for advantage. So when the miller shared his news about the king's interest in meeting her, she was taken aback. Things were getting awkward. Without saying anything to her father, Sally and Goodman Miller prepared to meet the king. When Goodman Dusty returned to court, Sally was at his side. Harold, the herald, announced him to the king. "Show them right in," the king commanded gleefully. It would be wrong to say that he was licking his chops, but his eagerness knew few bounds. The king spared no time on niceties. He led Sally to the first chamber, filled with a nice Ashford wheel and a lot of straw. "Sally, if you would like someday to be my queen, you must prove yourself. Spin away." This is where the true love part comes in. Sally wished, with all her heart, to let Rumpy know of her predicament. She sang a spell of yearning. She sang it loud. She sang it strong, and she knew it was good enough. She must have had a bit of magic in herself, too, because it worked. Rumpelstiltskin heard the call, consented to the magic, and it brought him to her in an instant. There was a bit of smoke and a faint reek of sulfur, and there he was. Quick as mercury, Rumpy took the wheel and began to chant an incantation of transmutation. Sally was a quick study, and soon was adding her voice to the song. The wheel kept time with the rhythm of the treadle and the whirring of the flywheel and bobbin. Just before daybreak, they took in their success. There were bobbins and bobbins beyond number, all filled with 24-karat gold. It was magic, It may be said that Mars had some influence on this outcome too, not just Mercury. I'll spare you the metaphysical details, though. In anticipation of daybreak, Rumpy hid in a corner, covered by Sally's great cloak, so the king never knew the part Rumpelstiltskin played in the great task. Now, this next part is much like the stories you've already heard. The king was pleased and ordered another night of spinning, but he wanted to increase productivity and insisted that Sally work even faster the next night. He did the old carrot and stick number too. If you work hard and meet your quota, I will marry you someday. If you don't, you'll be fired. Tied to the stake and fired, that was. So round and round Sally and Rumpy went again. Rather than advancing the story here, let me just ask you to read that previous paragraph one more time. Bigger room, more straw, tighter deadline. Brutal boss holds out a threat or promise of marriage. Yuck. You get the idea. But wait, this is where things get interesting again. On the fourth day, the king commanded another night of spinning, unwittingly breaking the sacred third time's the charm rule. He kept pressuring Sally to produce more and more golden thread, and with that transgression, all bets were off. Months went by. The king wasn't playing by the rules, so Sally and Rumpy weren't going to any longer either. They secretly recruited other helpers with extra wheels to keep producing more golden thread. Soon, it was more than a cottage industry. It was a nightmare. And that's not to mention the potential inflationary impact were the king to start spending any of that hoarded gold. I mean, the serfs and villagers went to the market cross of a day to buy a cock or a hen or a goose or a duck if it would very well please them. It wasn't all barter in those days, even for the common folk. Can you see where all this was heading? The king became hooked on all that wealth. But instead of spending it on the general welfare, he hoarded it like a dragon. The people became disenchanted with his rule. Sally and Rumpy organized the spinners into a guild, called for a general strike, and began demanding fair pay for their honest labor. And speaking of labor, their demands included something new, something called maternity leave. Rumpelstiltskin did get what he always wished for, Sally's firstborn child. He got it the honest way, by fatherhood. The general strike drew support from all kinds, even in the king's household. The king had been so coddled his whole life that he could barely make his own breakfast. He had little choice. He conceded to the workers' demands. The next day, he went mad. He danced a dance so awkward that some claimed he pulled his own leg right off. Those levelers that Goodman Dusty knew, they came out of the woods and formed a new representative government with popular support. And they all lived happily ever after.
Oh, that's fantastic, Steve. I enjoyed it so much. Oh, just great. Thank you. Thanks for reading. Thanks for writing it. It just was a real fun, whimsical romp. Oh, really good. Yes.
I like that.
Okay, so you guys, I am going to stop our recording now. And let's